Yes, it is. Hello, everybody.
Say hello, everybody. Aunt Bethany, say hello, everybody.
That is
Hello, everybody.
that is Theo Malone right there, filling in.
Oh, you didn't have to get us gifts. Oh, they guessed it.
What is that? I don't get it.
Christmas vacation.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Aunt Bethany wrapped up the cat.
Hey, Ryan 840. As you can see, Theo is here,
Yep.
and you know what?
I really hope your viewership just doesn't plummet on those days I come in.
People like you. You know what today is?
I like people.
You
What
know
is today? Is the 26th? 26th?
Today's the 26th, but it's also the first day of game week.
It is
How exciting!
for week one. You would not believe how many posts and stuff I saw this weekend, and I was kind of disconnected from sports minus Royals and Phillies baseball all weekend. But you just see it, boy, and that's why you don't play in Dublin, Ireland, right there.
Oh my God! Well, we'll talk about that.
Well, someone always wins.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think the fans of Northwestern and Georgia Tech are like, that's why you play in Dublin, Ireland, right there?
Yeah, exactly. But man,
You're not going to tell me. You know how many people though had said all summer when these preseason rankings come out. And we can talk a little bit about preseason rankings because I think it's a lot different ball game now than it was even 20 years ago. That it's for a lot, it's a stab in the dark.
I agree.
Especially after your top four. I mean, everyone knows that Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, and Texas are good. But after that, I mean, you have people thinking we'll be good. We don't know. We could lay an egg like every year. But a lot of people said Florida State was overrated. And
look what happened.
And I never understood that chant during basketball. When you're beating a top-rated team and your students or whoever starts chanting overrated, I hated that chant because that's almost a slide on yourself. Why? How about you be underrated? How about they're not underrated and you guys just play good? By saying that team is overrated, you're just saying, well, we're terrible and we beat you, so you must be terrible. Does that make sense?
It does.
I hated that chant.
But the overrated chant, it is like demoralizing to the other team.
It can be, but I always thought it was like a slide on yourself. It's like, no, they are number one and we beat them. Maybe we're underrated. We're better than you thought. Okay, that's just getting into semantics there, but
overrated.
Everybody stay off my lawn today.
This is the Morning Hookup on KFOR.
Feels right. What's going on? Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome into the Morning Hookup on KFOR. My name is Will Wilson. First mic today because Bill Hooks is gone. He is out of town today and tomorrow. He'll be back on Wednesday, which means we're calling the bullpen.
I get promoted from third mic to second mic?
Actually, you're technically in the power chair. So, yeah, hold on to that chair.
Well, speaking of it's a new chair in here too. It's, I mean, you got like a retired chair section over here in the corner.
Yeah.
Where like if you have like one of those older cars with the leather seats, how they start to get worn and stuff, and these creak. I like this. It sits a little bit higher.
Yeah,
but I like it.
There's six chairs in that room, and two of them get used a day. So
some of them get stored. They're backpack storage.
That's right. That is Theo Malone, who you're hearing. We have him every so often when one of us can make the show. We love him so much and appreciate you coming in and helping us out.
Usually probably when Bill can't make it because Bill and I aren't going to be running that board in there for no money. I haven't touched one of those boards in 30 years.
It's been a long time.
Yes.
But you know what? I'm sure you could sit down and still do it.
Yeah. We could fake our way through it. I just don't want to cost you guys any listeners.
Well, welcome into the show. A new week. Happy Monday. And this isn't, every other normal week. This is an exciting week.
It is.
It is game week.
It is game week.
Game week. UTEP on Saturday. Fox at 2:30. Excuse me. At 2:30. I was going to say 6:30. No, it's 2:30 in the afternoon UTEP is coming to town. The Miners, the Miners are coming to Lincoln.
They're coming. And Will, I want to ask you this. It's game week.
Yes.
At what point during the year do you really start anticipating this week?
Ooh. Today.
Today?
Yeah.
Well, because there are folks I work with. I mean, they'll be, 3 weeks till game day. Hey, football starts in 2 months. And I mean, to each his own. Now, I like summer. I enjoy my summer. I love baseball. I get a kid that plays baseball and stuff. While I do my homework and obviously watch spring game and see how summer workouts are going, I don't want my summer to just necessarily go by that quickly. Maybe today I do because we're supposed to have a heat index of 110.
Yeah, it's
I don't like
today.
that.
Yeah.
But I really don't kind of click into it's football mode, I think, until my kids go back to school.
Sure.
If that's fair.
I get that. Yeah.
But now that it is game week, it's go time.
How exciting.
It is go time.
It is finally here. 5 days until Nebraska football is back. Here's how the show looks today. We're going to open the show recapping the weekend. Of course, there was some college football over the weekend. It was Ireland again. I want to talk about your weekend. You spent time down at the Royals games.
Yes.
Watching your nephew play. There's a few other things that happened. Fan day, the volleyball documentary dropped as well. I want to hear if anybody watched that.
Had the scrimmage too for volleyball.
That's right.
They had a guest player come back and play for the scrimmage, so the sides would be even. We can talk about that a little bit too.
I didn't see that.
Oh yes.
Okay.
It was a former player who has only been removed for a couple years. Got invited to come back and play, so they had an even number of. I'll give you a little clue: an even number of middle blockers on both sides of the ball. So we can talk a little bit about that.
That's a good hint. Next segment, we'll have Evan Bland on the show. We'll spend the whole time talking UTEP Husker football because it is game week. Third segment, we're going to continue the road to UTEP. Every day we're picking a new game, previewing that team. Today it's going to be Indiana
Hoosiers.
Indiana. That game comes after the Rutgers game at home. So
it's actually it is
the
next game. There's a bye week. It is October 19th.
Okay.
And Rutgers game is October 5th. So there will be a bye week in there. So the Huskers go 3 weeks of not playing in Memorial Stadium.
Wow. After going 4 weeks to start the season.
Sure. Funny how that
play
works.
At Memorial Stadium. And then to end the show, we'll do some stories we missed, some news out of Michigan. That the hammer might be coming down following the sign stealing scandal. The notice of allegations were sent out over the weekend. So we'll talk about that. Some people are already predicting on what the punishment will be, and a lot of people are predicting it could be pretty serious too. So we'll get to that at the end of the show. Thew, talk about your weekend. You were down in Kansas City. You and I are huge Royals fans. It's actually fun to have a team that's actually meaningful. They're right now they're in the wild card. They're 4.5 games up in the wild card.
It was great, and I think obviously anytime that you have those interleague games, that's going to draw an even a bigger crowd because everybody's used to your teams. Let's say you're a Royals fan, you're used to seeing the Twins, White Sox, Tigers, yada yada yada. But not only did you get an interleague team to come in, you got an interleague team that was in first place in their division to come to town. And boy, would you be surprised how many Philadelphia Philly fans showed up at Kauffman Stadium this weekend.
Really?
Yes. And we went down. We have the benefit of a cousin on my wife's side being the starting third baseman for the Phillies, Alec Boehm. For those of you that don't know, Alec obviously is from Nebraska, grew up in Omaha, went to Roncalli. Unfortunately, he wasn't a Husker. He went down to Wichita State. Great year. And if you watch the All-Star game, he was an All-Star selection. And so we're in the family and friends. They're all decked out in Phillies gear, right? There's got to be 30 of us. I did the halvesies. I wore a Phillies shirt because you can root for a National League team too. But, I'm a Royals fan, have been for 45 years. But Xavier wasn't caving at all. Xavier wore all of his Royals gear.
That's your son.
That's my son, for those of you who don't know. And Salvi hit this 440-foot blast on Friday night, and we knew right off the bat. We jump up and we're yelling, and family turned around, gave us all frowns, and had to explain to him that, well, hey, we're Royals fans. I hope Alec does well. Alec didn't have a great series, but I know that he knew that 30 he was very appreciative that 30 friends and family came down. Even his high school principal came down. It did warm up a little bit during the weekend, but great time. It's hard because I'd like to see both teams win because Bill's not here. We can say it. I don't want to see the Braves win that division. I'd love to see Philadelphia do it again. Obviously, I want to see the Royals continue to do well. But good chance to get down there, watch my Royals and a family member. So great time.
That's awesome. Yeah, they got to win on Friday and then
got boat raced the next two.
Yeah, the next two. So they lost 2 out of 3 to the Phillies. Right now, I think they're 3 out of first place, 4.5 up in the wild card. So, and now they have a 4-game series at Cleveland.
Chance to move ahead or fall further back. So it's a big series for them.
Huge series for the Royals. So that's exciting. Good. You got to go down to KC for the weekend. That's always fun. Let's recap some of the college football over the weekend. There was college football, the game that everybody was watching, the Ireland game in Dublin. Of course, Nebraska fans get some bad memories from that one. Now Florida State fans are going to be having bad memories from that one. Florida State, 10th in the nation, haven't lost a game for 2 seasons or something like that. They had an insane win streak going on.
Right.
And here they are finding themselves taking on Georgia Tech in Dublin. And what a game it was. Georgia Tech hung with them the entire time. He had a game-winning field goal right at the end, and down goes number 10 in Dublin. I want to feel bad for Florida State fans.
Do you?
I do, because that's got to suck, traveling halfway across the country to watch your 10th team in the nation lose to Georgia Tech. What a waste of a trip.
But would Bill have said that the same thing when he took the trip a couple of years ago?
No, because I think he actually really did enjoy Ireland. And
sure. And you may have some fans that do that as well.
But that's got to suck.
It doesn't make the trip an A+, maybe. But if you still enjoy the trip for the trip. But there were a lot of the football experts that put this game on watch. And you would see most of them didn't want to go out on a limb and say, hey, this is going to be an upset. But you had a lot of them saying, don't be surprised if Georgia Tech keeps this close, gives them all they can handle, things along that line. They weren't wrong. And lo and behold, but I think Florida State, though, if you look at their last 2 games, that program, obviously you had the snubbing, as they would say, for the playoff last year. And then you had, they lost their quarterback. And then you had a lot of defections go to the draft, not want to participate in their bowl game. They absolutely just get smoked by Georgia in the bowl game. And new season, new year, and it just does not start off right. So it'll be interesting to see which direction this goes for Florida State, because basically in the ACC, really all you have to worry about is Clemson, who they were up for a while, they're still hanging around, but you have a Miami team who's really looking to make some moves this year. So it'll be interesting to watch that.
Yeah,
that conference this year.
I mean, a lot of people say that loss by Florida State, their season's done, pretty much.
I don't agree with that because of the 12-team expanded playoff.
Right.
If they take care of their business.
But the ACC's not getting 3 teams.
They're not, but their season's not done. The ACC conference winner is in automatically. And maybe even a 1 or 2 loss. A lot of that is going to depend on your at-large bids on what they look like from the other conferences. But you unfortunately, you are not only 0-1 overall record, but you're 0-1 in the conference already because you played an ACC team.
Right.
But no, the season's not lost. You hate to see that, but at the same time, as Husker fans, we've been there.
Yes.
You know how that goes. We were 0-1 in the conference after coming home from Dublin as well.
What a win for Georgia Tech to start off the college football season. There's another game after that, Montana State and New Mexico. Of course, Montana State FCS, I believe.
Yes.
Going to New Mexico. This was an interesting game. New Mexico had the lead for a majority of that game. And then once the fourth quarter hit, Montana State scored 21 straight to win the game. And Montana State takes that one home over New Mexico. That was an interesting game. The wind was blowing like crazy. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that game.
I didn't.
Whenever a team starts playing conservative, my buddy Justin, who I was working with at the bar that day, at halftime, he said, New Mexico starting to play conservative. This is when games switch, and that's exactly what happened. Montana State comes in, wins that game. And then there's a few more at night. SMU and Nevada. By the way, all underdogs covered this weekend in the first 4 games. This game had a huge spread. It was a big double-digit spread. SMU barely wins that game by 5, 29-24 at Nevada.
Didn't Chubba Purdy transfer to Nevada for an hour?
I think he's still there, but I think I've heard that he's dealing with an injury.
He is an injury. I know that
so he didn't play at all.
He transferred, and I want to say maybe the coach had left, and I don't know if he ended up transferring twice or how that happened with maybe the Arizona coach or something. Yeah. Okay. Well, but now what? Will, you have the computer in front of you really quick.
Yeah.
Obviously, our listeners, we're going to be locked in one game this week. First and foremost, we want to see what this 2024 version of Nebraska looks like. Do we have any other marquee matchups this week, or a lot of those in week 2? Because I want to say maybe it's week 2 where you get Texas and Michigan playing.
Yeah, there's some good games.
Notre Dame is Notre Dame, and is it Georgia Notre Dame?
Georgia Notre Dame, maybe, possibly. I'm looking at the schedule right now. This Saturday, there's some good get Georgia Clemson.
Okay,
that's a good one. Number 1 versus 14. Penn State West Virginia, not a bad game.
No.
Let's see here. Colorado State goes to Texas. You got Miami Florida. Miami Florida this Saturday.
Florida playing
at 2:30.
That's a game that I think is going to really be a telling sign for both of those programs, because Miami, I think, like Nebraska, has got a lot of preseason hub on an up and comer. Florida trying to get back into that elite group of the SEC, looking to make a statement.
Not only that, I mean, Billy Napier in Florida, this is a make or break season for them. And Florida has probably the toughest schedule out of anybody in the country.
I would agree.
It is just stacked with good teams. So in a year where their head coach needs to win, not a favoring schedule for that.
Yeah. Your AD didn't do you any favors by putting Miami first on the non-con, but
yeah, exactly.
Realistically, in today's society, I think you're going to start to see a lot more of that as teams maybe start to go towards that maybe even a mandatory 9-conference game schedule to make it even, because we talked about so long that Alabama would end up playing like Northwest Utah State College of Shoplifting in week 11, where it wasn't fair. But if everyone's doing the same number of conference games, well, how else are we going to get that RPI up? Or if you're only getting, the 5 away games, how else are we going to compensate for that? Well, you're going to have to start scheduling some of these other power conferences in the non-conference. And unfortunately for some of your FCS schools, those big paydays probably are not going to be as many as they used to be.
The other big game that weekend is Notre Dame at Texas A&M.
Notre Dame, okay, A&M at A&M and there. Hey, I haven't ever really rooted for Notre Dame, but I might.
Yeah. By the way, so that's what's going on this weekend. Happy game week. Football's back. And Hawaii got a win as well over the weekend. By the way, talk about the red-white volleyball day.
So they had the red-white scrimmage, and a lot like football, they have fan day. And this line for fan day, wow, it was stretched out
for volleyball
to get the autographs and whatnot. But if you're with us when the show opened, talked about a guest player come in.
Yeah, who'd they bring back?
Laura Stivrins.
Really? That's awesome. How did she play?
I think it took her a little bit to warm up, but she's trying out for that. She's going to be involved in that professional league. And so she had been coming, down to Devaney, ask Cook, hey, I'd like to work out, get ready for this. And of course, in any sport, if you come back and want to get ready for the next step, the coaches usually let them. And it kind of became evident that we've got 3 middle blockers on the roster. And so they wanted 2 middle blockers on each team to make it fair. And it was great because Andy Jackson, she talks about one of the reasons that she came to Nebraska was because of Lauren.
Oh, interesting.
and to get to play against her, and she did okay. I think she got roofed on her first couple of attacks, but then she warmed up. And ask the Husker fans, because she was so fun to watch when she was here, and to get to her to come back out and play even for just a red white scrimmage. The equipment manager even got her a 26 jersey like she wore here. It was long sleeve, not short sleeve. So she got to wear a 26 jersey on to Vandy Court one more time. I know it meant the world to her. And we got to see some good volleyball, and I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I heard all the sets were close, and it was really good volleyball.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign to come. Greg on the chat said, I thought Northwest Utah College of Shoplifting was an Alabama satellite campus.
It might be.
Well, good. It sounded like it was a good weekend for you. My weekend was all nothing but work, a lot of working. So hope you're enjoying the heat out there. Let's take a break. We're going to have Evan Bland on the show when we come back, talking nothing but football. It's
Nothing
game
but
week.
football.
UTEP on Saturday. We'll see how he's feeling. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more with Evan Bland after the break.
You're listening to the Morning Hookup with Bill Hooks and Will Wilson. More coming up.
Yeah, man, those Royals. Baseball is such an interesting game, man.
Well, I as your adopted godfather, I need to make sure you get enough sleep at night. I don't want you in there rubbing your eyes. And you got like a little rasp in your throat too. I don't know if I have to get you a lozenger.
No, I'll be fine.
All right.
I'll be fine.
Because you right before break, you said that you had worked all weekend. And I tell you what, listeners, right there, probably one of the hardest working men in Lincoln is through the glass.
That is.
I'm looking at he's not only does this for this station, but as you guys know, we have multiple stations in this building. Will does a lot of tracking and does work for a lot of the other stations in here, does play-by-play for KFOR, and he also has a second job at a local beverage providing outlet down in the Haymarket. So
Well, thank you.
You bet.
I appreciate that. And you, of course, you're getting off the air and you're going to hop on a train.
Yeah.
Ryan 840, when Dirk Bentley. Oh, you went to the Dirk Bentley show in Omaha. Oh, cool. By the way, Hooks and I played golf out at Woodland Hills on Friday. Course was in good shape. I know you play there a lot. Haven't seen Ernesto on the chat today. I wonder what he's doing. We'll have Evan Bland here soon.
I love talking to Evan Bland. That I know we're not going to talk to him about it today, but just getting to visit with him about Husker baseball just makes my week.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Yeah, well, the scramble we played in on Friday was benefiting Husker baseball. It was for.
Did you guys get to do that? Was that the Ben Butenbach?
Yep, he was actually in the group behind us. He's a fun guy.
Oh yeah,
he is fun. He was a lot of fun.
Believe him and his brother played their high school ball at Hastings.
Yeah, well, I met his brother actually. Yeah. His brother was there, and they were talking about Hastings. Yeah, because one guy in my group actually went to Hastings too, so they were talking about that.
Who was in your group?
His name was Matt. I cannot remember his last name. Something like Bukowski or something like that.
Okay.
He coaches with Bill on some of their youth teams.
Oh, so, yeah. Okay. How'd you guys fare?
I think we ended 12 under. It didn't place us anything. Erstad and his son, I think they shot 21 under. They can play. His son apparently is a hell of a golfer. I didn't know that. But they were on a team together. And I think they won the whole thing at like 21, 22 under. It's a crazy number.
Did you guys get
All right, got the Evan Got the Evan Bland on the phone.
All right.
Yeah, so it was fun to get out there. I haven't played in a while, and
Do they have a lot of the gimmicks and things you can buy?
There was only one on one hole, and you could pay to have a Husker baseball player hit a ball off a tee, and then you could drive your ball from wherever the ball landed. It was actually on the same hole that you did the baseball.
Hold
that thought for me.
Oh, baby, baby, baby. I got so much love in me.
Welcome back into the morning hookup. Happy Monday. Happy game week. I'm Will Wilson. Bill Hooks is gone today and tomorrow, which means Matthew Malone is in with me filling in. We're continuing the Monday with Evan Bland with the Omaha World Herald. He joins the show every Monday with us, and we're excited to talk game week. It's official. UTEP, Nebraska, 2:30 on Saturday. Evan, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Guys, we finally made it. Talking season is wrapping up, and here we go for some football.
It's about damn time. And UTEP is coming on Saturday. I mean, how's the offseason? Is the anticipation it's growing for you, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, it's probably overripe, I suppose, at this point. It was kind of weird not having Nebraska play kind of on that first mini opening weekend, the way that Florida State and Georgia Tech and some of those teams did last weekend. But I think everyone's ready to go. I think it seems to me like the optimism has generally kind of stayed the same. Like you have those years where in January, fans think a team's going to go whatever, and then it kind of builds as it's gone. I feel like people have kind of expected what this team can be for a while, for a number of different reasons: the schedule, the quarterback, the defense. Pick your reason. But I think people are ready to roll. It was a good off season. Nobody really, Nebraska didn't make too many negative headlines, and probably the one that they made turned into a pretty good hire in John Butler as secondary coach. So right. I think people are ready to roll. And it's time to see how this all translates onto the field.
By the way, you mentioned, some games that already happened. Florida State, a lot of people are saying their season's already done.
Well, it's not a great way to start. And Nebraska fans know all too well, like when you lose week one, and especially when you lose before the calendar flips to September, I mean, it's a deflating feeling. I mean, I remember coming back from Illinois a few years ago in August, and it was like, well, all the optimism, all the goodwill, everything that goes into that kind of felt like it was out the window at that point. But I mean, if I'm Florida State, I'd be worried about not being able to run the ball the way that they couldn't most of that game. But at the same time, like, you got to reset expectations at this point. You're not trying to get into a 4-team playoff. You're trying to get into a 12-team field. And so, 10 wins, 11 wins, like, that's still on the table even after one loss, even though you've probably wiped out most of your margin for error.
Evan, you talked about the excitement that had been building up as far as the defense and the quarterback. And obviously last week we learned what a lot of us thought was going to happen as Rule named the starting quarterback. But now that we're in game week this week, any idea of when maybe the rest of that depth chart might get released? And also, who do you think is going to march out behind Raiola at that running back spot for that first series?
Well, I do think the depth chart, I mean, it could drop. I think it'll drop this morning at some point, maybe in the next hour, maybe when Rules speaks. That's something they tended to do at times. So maybe around 11:30. I would think it'd be this morning at some point, but it'll be curious what they do. The running back spot is one of those areas on the depth chart I'll be looking at to see if they choose to define who their starter is. It's very possible they go Gabe Ervin or Ramir Johnson or Emmett Johnson and kind of do a number one thing, or they may define it and give it to somebody. And so I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know who it'll be. I think they've kind of talked around the position a lot of the fall. I think they like the depth they have there. I think they like the variety of skill set where you have guys like Ramir, who's more of a straight line speed guy. You got, Gabe Irvin, who's a little bit more physical between the tackles. Dante Dowdell is your big bodied back. I think he's made a move during camp to be in at least that 4-person rotation, if nothing else. So I don't know if they feel like somebody did enough in the last couple of weeks to earn that clear number 1 designation on the depth chart or not. Of course, somebody's going to have to take that first carry against UTEP. And, my guess might be Ramir Johnson, just because he's a 6th-year guy who has chosen to stuck it out. I know oftentimes, Matt Rule is very complimentary of guys like that who could have moved on or who had options or who've been Huskers for a long time. So I guess I'll say Ramir, but it does feel like it's a pretty wide open room at this point.
We're talking to Evan Bland with the Omaha World Herald. Evan, as we get closer to Saturday, give me a name on the offense and the defense that you're wanting to learn more and excited to see.
Offense, I think I'm trying to choose between the 2 transfers, Jamal Banks or Isaiah Nayor. I guess I'll say Nayor just because we haven't seen a lot of what he can do the last 2 years. You think about, he was such a big play receiver at Wyoming in 21, and then he's hurt at Texas in 22, and he doesn't really get back in the mix there in Austin in 23. So he has that reputation as being a take the top off the defense type, but we haven't really had a chance to see it in a game setting in 2 seasons, 3 years. So I think he's a guy to me that I know has made strides in the offseason. They like how he's gotten himself ready. Is he out there in that initial rotation? My guess would be yes. But what does he look like? What element can he bring? Can he approach sort of that Trey Palmer stretch the defense type of threat that really opens things up for some teammates underneath? So I'll say him on the offensive side. On the defensive side, I think I'm just kind of excited to see Deshaun Singleton back at safety. He was a guy who was really coming on, to the point of where he might have been in all Big Ten consideration if he hadn't gotten hurt in that 5th game against Michigan. And I think he was kind of out of sight, out of mind for a lot of fans and observers. And I would put myself in that group. You kind of forgot about him after he got hurt. And then he came back in the spring and has been really good this fall. He earned a single-digit jersey again. Just a playmaker on the back end. And so just to see how he's looking now back at full strength with another year in the scheme, he knows what he wants to do. We talked to him earlier in camp, and he seemed dialed in and confident in what's being asked of him. So that's somebody I think maybe he's going to make a few more plays and will become more of a household name for fans as the season gets going.
Evan, I always try not to always go back to my olden day references, but it was so great growing up, and you would see Pacific on the schedule and know that you were going to roll them 70-7, and your 7th string quarterback was going to probably earn enough time that he would let her in that first game. With the parity that we have now in college football, you've got to always take every opponent seriously. And here we have UTEP, and I don't know if it's the fans or who's doing it, sending out these little cheap shots with a chunky quarterback, and that gives the idea of that we are playing. I don't know if you saw this or not with that picture on Twitter of a obese, oversized quarterback wearing a 15, but you know how that always gets the fans all riled up, and hopefully we keep the players away from that. I don't know if that's them trying to motivate themselves. How worried should we be? What are we going to see against UTEP? Or is this a game that we should win handily?
Well, Vegas says Nebraska's a 4-touchdown favorite, and I think that's a good place to start. I think, UTEP, you're having a new coach in Scotty Walden. They were a 3-9 team last year. It's going to be a group, I think, offensively that wants to quicken the pace. So you're going to see a lot of quick snaps. You're going to see them take a few shots downfield with some deep balls. I think the secondary is probably going to be tested somewhat. The defense largely is starting over. I know their linebacking core is all portal guys. So this is a game, especially right out of the chute. Nebraska has more talent and more resources anyway, but now they also have, I think, a pretty marked advantage in terms of experience where, Walden's bringing over a handful of players who are with him at Austin Peay, but this is a group that may eventually be good this season, but I think it's a lot to ask. UTEP can come into Memorial Stadium in their season opener and be anything close to what they're going to be by the end of the season. So, yeah, I think this is a game where Nebraska needs to be able to establish the run and build up some confidence for Raiola and let the defense do its thing and experience some positive results maybe in terms of takeaways. That's kind of that next step defensively for what the Black Shirts are looking for. But I think just in general, like you think about the last 4 years, guys, I mean, Nebraska plays on the road against a Big Ten team. They stub their toe in every single one of those openers, and it just kind of set a poor tone for the season. This is more of the classic throwback opener where, hey, Nebraska's at home against a team they should beat. They have a generally an older team, but hey, you're breaking in a freshman quarterback. You're learning to use some of the in-game technology stuff in the moment. You're kind of figuring out special teams a little bit. I think it's an ideal sort of on-ramp to the season that gives them the luxury to figure things out in a little bit of a lower pressure environment than what they've had.
And well, Evan, with all that being said, and before we get you out of here, it's time to get our first score prediction from you. Because, that's why we love having you on Mondays. You're the first score prediction that we get. Give it to us. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to have to get back in the rhythm of thinking about this on a Monday. I usually don't formulate those until like midweek, but I'm going to go, I think I'll say 35-14. I think Nebraska pulls away in the second half. I just think there's too much talent, too much continuity. This is year 2 of the Matt Rule era, and UTEP's starting over in a lot of ways. I think if I'd be surprised if it were a close game into the second half and certainly the fourth quarter.
But not covering, huh?
I guess not. Maybe not. For all the folks who are thinking about that, maybe not. I think it'll be a little closer when it comes to the spread.
Well, all the underdogs covered in week 0, so maybe Evan's onto something. Evan, we appreciate your time so much, man. Enjoy Saturday, enjoy game week, and we'll see you on Monday recapping the game.
Sounds good. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you,
Evan. There he is, Evan Bland with the Omaha World Herald. We have him on the show every Monday. So there you go, 35-14. He's taking Nebraska.
You heard it right there
over UTEP. Let's take a break. We'll continue talking Nebraska football. The road to UTEP continues as we preview a different team each day. And when we come back, we'll be previewing the Indiana Hoosiers. That game is after the bye week. We'll talk about that when we come back.
You're listening to the Morning Hookup with Bill Hooks and Will Wilson. More coming up.
Doesn't it feel good to be in the flow of game week?
It does. Now, let me ask you this. Do some fans get nervous if we only beat a team like this by like 20?
They shouldn't, but yes, they do.
And that's how they're wired.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you win by 1, 3, 4 points, yeah.
It's hard to keep in mind what Husker football has been the last 8 years. There's so many people that still have the expectations every year like we did in the 90s. And that's just how people are. I always think it's important to realize what the current state is. And I just think a win is a win right now.
And I think a lot of it would depend, too. How does that 35-14 look? Is it crisp? Right. I mean, do you have controlling drives and doing what you're supposed to? Maybe UTEP gets a cheap touchdown late. Maybe you have the opportunity to get some second, third stringers in that second half where it was maybe a 28-7 game, at halftime, and maybe you only get one score in the second half because you're playing a lot of other players. How does that 35-14 look? I think a lot of that will depend on it too.
Yeah, and I think it means more if, for 3 quarters, UTEP's hanging around. To me, that's more alarming than only winning by 20 points.
Sure.
Like if UTEP is in this game down a touchdown going into the fourth quarter, that's a little more alarming, But yeah, I mean, a 20-point win is fine. Like Triz had a great point in the chat a few weeks ago we are not. We're still not at the point to where we can assume that we're going to beat any team by 20, 30 points
or beat any team.
or beat any exactly
Was
for
it
that matter.
South Alabama or whatever that was
Yeah,
a couple years ago?
mm-hmm. South Alabama.
And I would be interested too, is that you may not see a lot of the fireworks and flair.
No,
Because I think I'm fairly certain that playbook's not going to get completely open because they are going to bamboozle Colorado with some stuff that will not be seen in week one.
Mm-hmm. It's funny talking to a few guys yesterday at the bar. The PTSD is still hanging around. I mean, somebody goes, "God, we're not going to lose this game, are we?" Like, and not talking about Colorado, they're talking about UTEP. Like, we could not lose this game. I mean, some people are actually still thinking that there's a chance we lose this game and that's Nebraska fan PTSD from the last 8 years.
At least.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was it somebody help me out here that took the Amir Abdullah almost last play of the game to beat that team? Was it McNeese State?
Yep.
So it's a different game, and because even your smaller schools have athletes now. That wasn't always the case. We were always bigger, faster, and stronger. But now everybody has big, fast, strong kids. It's development, what they do with your system, and working that. And so, I mean, even beating any team by 21 is good now. But I think there'll still be some stuff reserved because I know it's only week 2, and there'll be a lot of games, and they'll do you the whole coach speech. That every game just counts the same, but everybody on that team, including Kuchar, just wants to stomp a mud hole in Colorado's behind.
And Vegas just gives us these expectations, like, oh, we're favored by 3 touchdowns. Okay, if we don't cover that, then this is a unsuccessful. Like, that's bull.
But they're there to make some money too. They don't just willy nilly shoot that out.
Exactly. Welcome back into the morning hookup. Happy Monday. Happy game week. Nebraska UTEP on Saturday at 2:30 on Fox. We just talked to Evan Bland with the Omaha World Herald. He's taking Nebraska 35-14. Pretty exciting. We were just talking during the break. Is our fans going to be mad if we only win this game by 14, 20 points? And I think you and I are both on the same page where a win is a win right now. You know what I mean? A bowl game is the goal for me. That's all I want this year.
Would you be fine if this team went 6-6?
I would be. I would.
I'd be happy we played in a bowl game, but I think based upon how close we were last year, what it could have been minus a few turnovers and some different play at a different position, that you were eye blink away from 8-4.
Mm-hmm.
I know it didn't happen. I mean, we can sit here and say what could have been. Yeah, I get that. But, I mean, not only what could have been, I look at a lot of those close losses that what should have been. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm looking at 8-4 last year, I don't, considering the upgrade you have at quarterback, you've added veteran experience to your skill positions, most of your defense coming back, an easier schedule. I would think just 6-6 is kind of a step back, even though you were only 5-7 last year. I mean, I get it.
But I base all of it on what we've been doing and how bad we've been recently. I just, I've always been that way.
And I get that. I mean, I think a lot of the younger fans that this is what they've known, that unfortunately I feel bad. You guys are almost like a dog that's been beaten for years. And you guys are hand shy. It's like,
been rough.
He's got the newspaper out again. He's not going to read it. He's going to swat it with me.
We're jealous. You've seen national championships.
I have.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I'm jealous.
But also, at the flip side too, I know that we look back to the Northwestern game a couple of years ago that, they come out and they thump them 56-10. So that capability is in there too.
Yeah, that was weird.
I would love to see something like that. Click on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Have some confidence. Week one. It's one game, but I think it's going to do a multitude for not the guys that are in their 5th year that decided to come back, that preached, hey, I want to be part of this, that is a good tone setter, and also for the younger guys, like, okay, this is how it's going to be. Let's keep this going. That's why, although it's just UTEP, I want to see it crisp. Keep the turnovers down. Keep the offsides, the false starts to a minimum. I don't care what the score is. Look crisp in all 3 aspects of the game, and that score will take care of itself. And then build that momentum, because we all know who's coming up week 2.
Yes. Well, each day, Thew, we've been previewing our opponents. We're calling it the road to UTEP. Today we have Indiana, the Indiana Hoosiers. This game is going to be on the 19th, and it's after the bye week. It's after Nebraska's first bye week. And Indiana is kind of an interesting team. You know, they fired Tom Allen, who's been there forever, and they bring in kind of a new and up-and-coming coach, Curt Cignetti.
Yep.
James Madison's former coach, who had an obviously great year last year. They made it to an FBS Bowl. They were an outstanding team. So he's coming in, one of the newer coaches here in the Big Ten.
And weren't they even ranked?
James Madison?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
Like 23rd at some point in time.
They were a good team.
In our poll.
Yeah, really good team. I mean, this guy can coach. I think Indiana's going to be a way more physical team. I think that's the way this guy coaches. Early on, I got to admit, I'm kind of interested in this game because it could be a tough one for Nebraska. I think one of the few. Is it our second road game, or
it might be our third?
Our third. Purdue's on the road.
Is it? Okay, yeah, I know
Purdue's on the road.
Okay,
and I think, gosh, is that it?
Well, let's take a peek because I've got this. Yeah, because you have. Yeah, it is our second road game. Okay. So I think I'm a little more comfortable with it being after a bye week. But, you know, they have a lot of new players, and a lot of these new players are obviously transfers from James Madison. Yes.
So these guys know what this head coach is, how he likes his players to play. And again, I just think they're really tough. They're bringing in new QBs, new running backs, new linebackers, new players in the secondary as well. They have a few guys returning on the O-line. They return some of their wide receivers as well. So this is interesting. Indiana, and by the way, Indiana has a pretty favorable schedule. Before our game, they're playing Northwestern. And by the way, they have a bye week as well. So we're going to have a bye week the same week as them. So both of us are going to be coming out of a bye week. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, and it's funny too, because and then we both have kind of tougher games the week after. I won't lie to you. When the schedule came out, I'm like, okay, I know Indiana's down a little bit. You know, obviously doing a little bit more research like you did on Indiana. Like, okay, maybe this might be a little bit closer. I do like the fact of how it sets up schedule-wise for us, because we have Rutgers, which at home 2 weeks before that, which I am one of those people. I think that's going to be a tough game at home.
That's no gimme.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough game at home. It's probably going to be physical. I like the fact that we do have that bye week before we play Indiana. Now, a lot of people are going to, and I get to say this. You don't get it. The team won't say this. The coach won't say this. The week after Indiana, we have a second road game in a row and go out to Columbus to play Ohio State. I think that this game probably means more than the Ohio State game. And I simply say that from my perspective because I know what kind of monster Ohio State is. It is what it is. And we talked about how that goal, if you could get to 6-1 or even 7-0, and this is that last step before you have those final 5 games that we know are very daunting with Ohio State, UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa. This is very important as far as, getting to that bowl, maybe getting to a higher bowl, getting the wins. Now, Curt Cignetti, career record 119-35. He has never had a losing season.
Wow.
At all 3 of his stops, never had a losing season. They bring in a quarterback, the Rourke kid. Yeah, Kurt Rourke, for 3 years at Ohio, thrown for 7,900 yards, 50 touchdowns. He's rushed for 800 yards, 11 more touchdowns. So this is a big mobile kid. But also our defense is going to be used to someone like that too. But here's a kid they're bringing in, a transfer, who's probably going to oust the guy they had playing quarterback last year. So it's good. And he's going to have a great receiver to throw to, who's transferring over, like you said, from James Madison. The Surratt kid, I think is his name. He's got 1,200 yards receiving. Tight ends coming over from James Madison also. I'm impressed with some of the people he brought on defense. He brought over the Fisher, Walker, 108 tackles, 61 tackles, 5 sacks from the Lonnell kid that's coming over. They also brought over a DB. He's only like 5'9", D'Angelo Pons. Last year, he had 2 interceptions, 13 pass breakups, 51 tackles. Here is a stat, and I know the defense will be a little bit better, but a lot of the Indiana defense will still be there. Indiana is 1-8 when they allow over 100 yards rushing. Last year, they were 1-8. I think this is a game because I think Indiana's pass defense is going to be a little bit better with the additions of this pass rush and the defensive back that they brought in. I believe that this will be a game where you're going to see those 4 backs. If granted they're still healthy, I don't know, and this is not knowing what the rotation will be, but you're going to see Nebraska really try and pound the rock against these guys. You're coming off an off week. It might be a little bit colder as you're getting into October, right. Knowing what game is next. I think this is going to be control the game, be okay winning by maybe 1 or 2 scores, get out of there rushing for 250, maybe 300 if you were lucky, lower scoring game, but we do win it. I think our defense is too much for anything they'll have on offense. We win 27-10.
27-10. Okay, I'm going to go 24-17. I do think it's going to be a tough game. It could be close for a while, but our defense, I think, is durable, and they're ultimately going to win this game for us. So, yeah, I'll go 24-17, and you're going 27-10. 27-10 over Indiana. A few games left as we get closer to Saturday. Tomorrow we'll be recapping.
Are we doing Ohio State then?
Is it Ohio State? Ohio State's after that. Not much recap to do for that. Number 2 preseason in the nation, the Ohio State Buckeyes. So, all right, good. We got that down. Hooks we'll have to get his prediction when he gets back on Wednesday. I am logging your prediction though. I have it on our spreadsheet. So
okay,
let's take a break. Come back. We'll do some stories we missed. One of the stories I want to get to: Michigan. The notice of allegations have been sent in the sign stealing incident, and some people are predicting these punishments could be pretty big.
Ooh,
we'll talk about that when we come back.
You're listening to the Morning Hookup with Bill Hooks and Will Wilson. More coming up.
Yeah, by the way, Indiana's coach, a lot of people, if you were watching Big Ten Media Days, a lot of people got PTSD from Scott Frost because somebody asked him something like, how are you going to adjust to the Big Ten? And he said, they're going to have to adjust to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that similar. And I think you heard a little bit of that from USC a little bit too, that you guys, it's a different style of ball. Mm-hmm. And if you go out there and try and play your ball, I mean, look at Cincinnati. I joined the Big 12. It's similar, but not. It's night and day from Pac-12, for the Big Ten, and it obviously from James Madison. You're going to have some kids, some talent. Mm-hmm. I get that, but look at Jackson State, how good they were, and Coach Prime comes to Colorado. He brings his 2 boys, brings Travis, and they still did okay, but that's, and I'm taking, out our game, but they're 4-8. It's a different James Madison. He'll bring over some athletes, but we're just going to be bigger and stronger. You line up that ball, and then when they start packing that in, Fedoni is going to slip out and release, and we're going to be ready. Because if you look at last year, and I know, unfortunately, Satterfield took a lot of heat. But go back and look at some of those plays, and I don't want to bag on college kids, but we had receivers running open. We schemed well. We planned well. We had guys running wide open. We just couldn't get them the ball. We scheme even remotely close to that this year against teams. I'm confident we'll be able to get them the ball a little more often. I'm excited. I really am. Keep him clean, though.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
because I'd be interested to see where they go. If Dylan needs a series off, who's next up?
Yeah. Who knows? That is also an interesting, because the backup quarterback, we've gotten in so much trouble the past few years where we didn't have a solid backup. So that is an interesting question. Also Saturday, I'm just really interested to see how the O-line looks. That's obviously crucial in a team's success.
It is. I'm worried, but I'm not, because you've got a lot of career starts. A lot of career starts.
You do.
Probably the person with the least amount of career starts is Jenkins.
Mm-hmm.
And he boy, that guy, versatile, solid.
Welcome back into the morning hookup. Final segment of the day. Will Wilson with you. Matthew Malone is filling in for Bill. He is on a 2-day golf trip.
Bender.
You could say that. It's actually kind of cool. Him and like a ton of dudes are on a bus, and they're like traveling to Manhattan, Kansas to play, and then going to another course. It's sounds like a lot of money could be lost and won, is what I'm getting at. So that's where he's at for the next few days. He'll be back on Wednesday. Theo will be back in tomorrow. Appreciate you coming in today.
You bet.
We have about 5 minutes left in the show. Let's get to some stories we missed.
The stories we missed. The morning hookup.
All right. Well, Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines, we got some news over the weekend that the NCAA has sent out a notice of allegations to the school involving their sign stealing scandal from last season. Connor Stallions, obviously the big name in that. And so how this works is they send out the allegations, and then Michigan has until late November to address the accusations. Now, after a response, the NCAA could then call a meeting of the Committee on Infractions for Michigan to make its case, but that could take place well after this season. They're saying their current head coach, Sharon Moore, could face a suspension after allegedly committing level 2 violations when investigators claim he deleted text messages between him and Stallions. Moore could be considered a repeat violator after he received punishments regarding a separate NCAA investigation into illegal recruiting practices during the COVID-19 dead period. And of course, Jim Harbaugh is no longer with the team. He's with the Chargers now, so he's pretty much not involved in this at all. I've seen some things on the internet. Some people are assuming what could happen in terms of punishments. I've seen something to where Sharon Moore could be suspended for a whole season. I've seen stuff that championships and wins could be vacated in 2021 and 2023. Now, I don't think they would ever do that because it's Michigan, and I feel like the NCAA would protect a good team like that. But here we are, Theo. Notice of allegations have been sent. Something is going to happen. We just don't know what.
You said level 2. How many levels are there?
I think probably like level 3, level 2, and level 1. But
Level 1 being the lowest?
I think level 1's the worst.
Level 1's the worst, kind of
Yeah.
like misdemeanors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, Jim Harbaugh knew when to leave, didn't he?
he did.
And I don't think he's allowed back in, is he?
What do you mean?
I thought I had heard that might be banned from college football.
Oh, like a show cause type thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
I think
if
they
NFL
did.
doesn't work out for you, dude, you bet you might have to go to the CFL or USFL or something, because
You're right.
like you can't coach college anymore.
Yeah. So that did happen. Yeah. From the other investigation into the dead period stuff. That's why.
And what's unfortunate, I mean, Michigan it's one of the blue bloods of not only football but by basketball for college athletics.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunate, and I'm sure they're probably not alone. And you always say, well, they're the only ones that got caught, and that may be. But that's pretty big. I think the one thing you would never see happen again, and I never say never, because even when Penn State faced, some of the most gruesome things that could ever happen, it was a scholarship limitation. We haven't seen the death penalty since SMU. When Eric Dickerson and all of them went to SMU. I think you could probably see something very similar. You might see a bowl ban, not eligible for the college football playoff, and probably a scholarship scholarships taken away.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate too, because if more than not, you would like to hope and think that like none of the student athletes were probably involved in this. This was administration getting signs, doing that. And probably when they show up to practice, hey, these are the plays that we're going to practice on, not telling the players, hey, these are the plays that Nebraska is going to be running.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's unfortunate because in the end, it's probably the student athletes are going to receive a lot of this punishment as well.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. We probably won't get much news out of this until a few more months. But that's what's going on up in Michigan. Theo, thank you so much for coming in today.
You betcha.
Enjoy your Monday.
You as
Enjoy
well?
the heat.
Oh yeah, love
Stay
it.
cool out there. You too, if you're listening, be cool out there. Hopefully this hot weather goes away. Looking pretty nice though for game day on Saturday. So
Good.
We'll see you tomorrow, and
Okay.
listeners, we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good Monday, and we'll see you on Tuesday.